Perfect. Well, funny enough, there's nowhere to ask, are we live now? But I hope we are live and people are watching us. Hey guys, good evening to everyone who's watching live and to anyone who's going to be watching later. Today, Simon and I are hosting our fourth event for ProductTank Linz. And today we have Ravi as our guest speaker. I've known Ravi only for a little bit. I came across him via LinkedIn, reached out to him, and since the first communication, it has been pretty seamless. Apart from his vast experience in product management, he does a lot of product management blogging. He's helping new and associate PMs around the world. And he also runs his own podcast. So check him out on productlessons.com. In terms of our co-organizers, so it's Simon and I. So at the end of the meetup, or if you have new ideas or any feedback or any speaker opportunity or sponsorship, please reach out to me or Simon via LinkedIn or via MTP channel for ProductTank Linz. As we also know that the MTP Con Digital is going to be coming through on the 18th and 19th of November. So take this as a really good opportunity. You guys can go onto the MTP website, buy these conference tickets, and it's going to be a great learning for a new and existing product manager from these leading product leaders in the world. And last but not the least, we have our newsletter and also for our membership level for ProductTank from Mind the Product. So you can choose your membership in terms of 3 tiers. So feel free, go ahead and use this as an opportunity as well. So I'll pass on the mic to Ravi now.
Hey, how's it going? Are you guys able to hear me okay? Manav, could you just confirm if my audio is fine at your end?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it's an honor and privilege to be speaking at ProductTank Linz. And ProductTank, I have also spoken before at MTP Engage. That was a couple of years ago, and I've always enjoyed speaking at ProductTank, be it Mind the Product or ProductTanks. And thanks again, Manav, for getting to me. So I'm a product manager, senior product manager at Ionos. And I have my own community that I have been building for last few years. It's called productlessons.com. You can check it out. And I'm most active on Twitter at Product Lessons. So when Manav reached out to me, I was in a fix. So of course, I jumped onto the opportunity and I wanted to talk, but I was not very sure which topic should I be picking. And after raking my head a bit, I got reminded of a blog post that I had written some time ago, which had garnered quite some interest from my network. And it was titled "How to Avoid Turning Your Product into a Feature Factory," the exact title that I have today for the talk. And as you can see, it got around 172 likes, a lot of comments, and a couple of thousand of views. And it actually triggered a lot of conversations, and it then helped me think over that topic again. And I thought, so it organically grew within me, and I started thinking more about it, and it now emerged in the form of a talk that I'm delivering it here. So an interesting anecdote here, just a year and a half ago, Apple did something very interesting, and it caught everybody's fancy and imagination. So Apple, as you know, every year for the past several years has been shipping exciting products, exciting features, and they're always known for that. There is a lot of expectations from Apple's releases, right? They're renowned for that. However, on the end of 2018, they did something very interesting. They announced that they would not be shipping any features. And all the press read, this was the headline from the press. It says, after 10 years, Apple is totally changing how it makes iPhone software and users should be ecstatic. Apple is focusing on performance in the next version of iOS. And when you go into the details, it said, instead of keeping engineers, I'm reading this verbatim, instead of keeping engineers on a relentless annual schedule and cramming features into a single update, Apple will start focusing on the next 2 years of updates for its iPhone and iPad operating system, according to people familiar with the change. The company will continue to update its software annually, but internally, engineers will have more discretion to push back features that are not as polished to the following year. I do not know how many of you are aware with such a scenario within the organization, but I am. I have worked in organizations um, which had become like an automatic pilot to just ship features every quarter. And it comes at a price, it comes at a cost, and the cost is often performance. And when you say that the engineers will have more discretion to push back, the engineers are the happiest lot, not the product managers, not the senior management, because the senior management and the product management would want to ship new features to the customers and make their product more valuable. But this is the first time the power went back to the hands of the engineers, and they got the discretion to say no to features because of accumulated technical debt. And they had the power to say no, we will be working on reducing the accumulated technical debt. And yeah, we want to increase the performance and rework on the code base. So this is coming from Apple. And the point is, the best of products suffer from feature bloat. Okay, so I'm not talking about just about any company. I just gave you an example from Apple, which was suffering from feature bloat, and they wanted to halt and pause and rework on their code base to make their performance better. So what are the problems of a feature factory product? There are many problems. Largely, there are 4 problems. So what happens when a product becomes a feature factory? It becomes it becomes a factory of features that are non-performing. So that means not everything that you ship is delivering value as promised. Next, as I said, it accumulated tech debt, and the cost of maintenance also goes up. And when you ship a lot of non-performing features, it also reduces customer satisfaction. The NPS scores goes down. It just looks good on marketing collateral. It looks good on your marketing speak, but talk to customers, the customer satisfaction goes down. And also it suffers differentiation in market, isn't it? Over time, when you ship lots and lots of features, as you become mature, you are becoming everything for everybody. That means your customers are not able to position your product in their mind saying, what exactly is this product trying to solve? Because it is trying to solve everything for everybody. So these are the biggest challenges for a feature factory product. Now, this is a classic iceberg problem, isn't it? What seems like a small feature on top could have a huge cost at the back end. And many times, if especially product manager who are not aware of the tech stack, or are not aware of the technical debts, or not aware of the history behind their code base, often are wondering, why does it take so long to build a small feature? I clearly remember once we had this big customer who just wanted a change in color of the user interface. And he could not fathom why we were asking for 8 weeks to change that color, because it had a lot of repercussions at the back end. So we all know about this, right? The estimated cost of small features is huge. Just imagine when these features pile up over the years. This is again a classic feature featureitis curve, and this comes from Kathy Sierra's website, and it gives you a very good graphic on how the user happiness evolves over time as the number of features grow. So when a product is new and it has just hit the market with a novel solution trying to solve a problem, the customers are find it very, they're happy with what they have been offered, but since it's still new, they wish that the product could do more. And it's often the case with a new product, isn't it? Because it is trying to solve a very core problem on a niche area, and there are adjacent customers who would want to do more with the product, but it's a good problem to have. And then you add more features, and then customers say, wow, I'm glad they added this. And then customer base is getting happier. They say, cool. And then they say, I rule. So this is again Kathy Sierra's model of a badass user, that a good product makes users look badass. They are like they become superpower. They get this superpower to solve the problems with this product. And at that point of time, the happiness is at its peak. Now, what happens often is we all need to keep working, isn't it? Because we do not have new products. We need to fill features, we need to be engaged, we need to be busy. So what we do, we ship more features. And then what it does is, for the customers, they now start looking at the user manual because it's starting to get complicated. And then they start to get lost because they're not able to figure out where the feature has gone. And then there comes a point of time where they're not able to do the core functionality that the product was initially made for. So eventually this is where it lands up, and then the customer is really frustrated, and the user experience suffers. Now, just a few weeks ago, my wife and I were looking for a toaster for so we just moved to a new apartment and we did not have a toaster. So we went to Amazon and we're looking for a toaster. Now, what does a toaster do? A toaster toasts loaves of bread, isn't it? But we found a toaster while we were researching. We found a multifunctional toaster, a 5-in-1 toaster that just does not toast bread. It boils eggs, it makes omelets, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, it poaches eggs, it steams eggs, it makes bread buns attachment and whatnot. And we got very excited because we said, wow, if this one machine can get me with 5 things done, and also boils vegetables, mind you. So because we are getting healthier in the evenings, we want to boil some greens. So we thought, wow, if this can do everything for us, let's buy this. So it immediately became attractive in comparison to a toaster that just promised to toast bread. And then what happened? What happened was we were lost. We were unable to navigate the user interface of this toaster. The usability was really, really difficult. And as a result, we were not able to manage this toaster, and we got frustrated. And this graphic explains this scenario. So as you can see, the number of features is high on the right-hand side, and the number of features is low on the left-hand side. Now, if the number of features is high, what happens is the initial sale is maximized. And this is because a buyer psychology, right? So I just demonstrated an example of buyer psychology. So what is the buyer psychology? The buyer psychology is, if the buyer sees that a product has more features than the competitors, the buyer will want to buy the product with more features. But eventually he gets frustrated because more features does not mean more value. It just comes at a cost of usability. As a result, the repeat sales does not happen for that product. And that's why if you see, when the feature is less, that's when the repeat sales is maximized. And when the feature is optimal, that's when the customer lifetime value is also maximized. So this is also a very nice graphic, because it's again a catch 22 situation, because your sales team would say, hey, the competitor has more features, we need to make also build more features, otherwise we are not able to penetrate into the market or a new market. So as product people, we have to navigate this very carefully to make those decisions. Do we need to make more features or an optimal set of features? So it needs critical thinking. It needs a lot of balanced perspective to be able to say how many features should we enter into a new market. Now, I set the context of what a product with feature factory looks like. I gave you the perspective, I gave you challenges. Now, how do you approach such a situation? So I will give you two approaches, tactical and strategic. And tactical, as you know, is decisions that you can take daily, and strategic is as it's self-evident, right? It's the bigger picture. It's the strategic picture that you can take to solve this and still manage your product from becoming a feature factory. So tactical approaches are two. One is outcome mindset, to have an outcome mindset of feature building, and the second one is to have feature audit. So let's start with outcome mindset. Now, we all know the difference between, as product managers, we know the difference between outcome and output, isn't it? So output is when you start thinking on number of features being shipped every quarter or every 6 months. That's how you measure success. You measure success by, okay, how many teams? There are 3 teams working on the product. Each team is shipping 4 features or 5 features. So this is a very output attitude to have, to ship features. But outcome is when you do not measure yourself with number of features, but you measure yourself with the number of problems solved for customers and the extent of positive impact created for customers. And once you have an outcome mindset, then you definitely will say no, or you will not pat yourself on the back saying that we have shipped a lot of features. No, you will only measure yourself on the number of problems you are solving. So it's very important to have an outcome mindset over output. Now, I shared this graphic with my team in one of my previous organization on how to be more outcome oriented. Now, when you start building a feature, you start with a goal, isn't it? So you have some KPIs, you have defined some success metrics, and you want to move towards the success metrics as you proceed. Now you start moving towards your goal and you are building this feature. Along the way, you encounter obstacles. There are technical constraints, there are refactoring needs. There could be some very valuable resources who leaving the organization. But you battle all of these obstacles and you bravely go ahead. And eventually what happens is then you may reach your feature goal, isn't it? So that's how features are built. You might hit the feature goals, you might hit your success metrics, but you don't hit the success metrics most times at the first instance. Usually what happens is before that you actually ship the feature much before hitting the goal. Only after you release the feature, only after you ship the feature, you are able to measure it. And in most cases, you would miss your mark in the first release. Most often you do not, because once the rubber meets the road, once you make first contact with the customer or with the market, that's when you get to hear a lot of feedback. And that is when you start iterating your feature. You start tweaking your feature to see, okay, what is it that is missing? Why are our customers not able to be successful. And then you iterate, and then you iterate a bit more, and then after a few iterations, you might reach your goal. Okay, usually that happens, isn't it? Now, most often you might reach that goal, but sometimes what happens, no matter how hard you try, you have still failed. How hard you iterate, you have still failed. Maybe there could be multiple reasons. The reasons could be maybe your initial hypothesis was wrong, maybe you were trying to solve a problem that did not exist, or there could be 100 other reasons. And at that point, what happens, most product companies, they just forget to decide on that feature that is non-performing, that is not performing. What do? You just forget it and you build more features. And now what happened? You are living with a feature that is non-performing, and it just accumulates and it just adds to the technical debt. It just becomes, it makes your code base bulky, and that piece of code is not adding any value to the customer, and it's non-performing. So what is important is the decision for the product team to be able to pull the feature out and not let it stay there and just forget about it. So the output mindset is when you only are responsible for a feature till it's released. That is the output mindset. And outcome mindset is you are responsible for the feature till the feature is delivering value or the success metrics it was promised. And I know this for sure. I worked in many organizations and I've seen that many organizations have this output mindset, and people just ship the feature and they build next set of features. So very few people are actually taking charge for the real goal. So this is a quote, again, coming from Microsoft. I gave you an example from Apple before. This is a quote from Ronnie Kohavi. He's a partner architect at Microsoft. And he says this: "It is humbling to see how bad experts are at estimating the value of features. Despite our best efforts and pruning of ideas, most fail to show value when evaluated in controlled experiments. The literature is filled with reports that success rates of ideas in the software industry are below 50%. Our experience at Microsoft is no different. Only about a third of ideas improve the metrics they were designed to improve." Now, first of all, kudos to Microsoft to be able to say this openly, that 1/3 of their ideas are improving the metrics they were designed to improve. If Microsoft says this, if Apple says this, then the rest of the organization should also take lessons from this, and should not be delusional saying that all their features are high performing features. No, it cannot be. Okay, you have to accept that some of your features are going to be non-performing. So that's why it is more valuable to know that a feature is not performing than to not know anything about the feature and let it live in your product. This leads to feature factory. So my point is, don't be a feature factory. And by deciding to pull the feature out, you build a habit to keep your product lean and not feature bloat your product with non-performing features. Now, we used to follow something called a done ritual. And a done ritual is important because it helps you inculcate this is not output. There's a typo here. It's outcome mindset. Sorry about that. So usually we have a portfolio Kanban board, so where your features progresses from opportunity to backlog to implementation, and then it is shipped to the wild. And then there is something called a done column. And done column is where you are actually making the decision whether a feature has met its success criteria. And usually it's a ritual. That means the product managers are supposed to track the success of the feature and present it to the product board. Okay, what was the goal? What was the success metrics that we had identified in our opportunity assessment? And what was that success metric finally achieved? Usually after shipping a feature, the success is measured either for the next 5 weeks or 6 weeks, and sometimes if it's a product that has a longer shelf life, it is close to 3 months, a quarter. Okay, so it's decided upon feature to feature. So within that first 3 months, we have to decide whether that feature was a success or not. So success metrics identified, results of success metrics, this we have to present it. So yeah, the other input is also to get directly from the customers, whether the customers like the feature, also get feedback from sales, business development, also support. Support is also a very good source of knowledge to know whether the shipped feature is performing or not. And if the success metrics are not met, what are the next steps? Do we iterate or do we pull out the feature? This is the decision that needs to be done. And the product managers need tell to the product board that no matter how much we iterate, we are not. It's not succeeding. It's our customers are not using it. So we have decided to pull out the feature. So done ritual, it is easy to just ship a feature. It is difficult to follow through to measure the success of a feature, because so difficult to build a feature is easy. Of course, it has its own challenges, but what is difficult is to follow through. And also the excitement of building something new always overpowers the drudgery of following through already built feature. And that's the reason teams usually jump to build more features. So done ritual ensures there is a rigorous follow through. And once that Kanban board is transparent, then there is an accumulated list of features that have to pass through the done ritual. And then it is transparent and everybody's aware, and product managers are answerable why a feature is not done yet. So tactical approaches. Second approach is a feature audit. A feature audit is when not all your features are used by all your customers all the time. Okay, especially a feature that is moving towards maturity. What happens is, you know for sure that not all the features are used by all your customers all the time. And feature audits take stock of your feature adoption and usage. And that's why it's very important to conduct feature audits in a regular time frame. And one of the things that this graphic comes from. I'm just trying to recollect where it comes from. I'm unable to recollect here, but I will let you know in some time. Now, this graphic is important because it tells you it provides you a great framework to do a feature audit. So what you could do is, you can spread your features across this table and see which are the features that are used all of the time by all your customers, or most of the time by most of your customers. So this gives you a very nice matrix where you are able to see which are the high performing features, which are the high adoption features. And this tells you, okay, which are the features that are non-performing. And just helps you decide the fate of your features, performance of your features. Now, this is an example of a product where it has different functionality like messages, uploads, chat room, calendar, etc. Now, for a product manager, this gives you a very balanced perspective, saying that, you know what, all these features are performing great. I mean, the deviation is not that much in terms of success and usage of the features. But reality is often not like that. Reality is, what happens is, some features are outperforming the others dramatically, with a dramatic contrast. So as you can see here, calendar is not used at all, and messages and docs editor is used a lot. So this difference in perspective is something that the product team should be aware of. And most times what happens is, product teams are not aware of. I mean, this is perfectly okay, and it should not hurt our ego saying that some features are not being successful. But what is not okay is not having a transparent view of your features, and just being delusional, thinking that all your features are doing well. Now, what do you do with the feature audit? You either decide that, okay, no matter how much we iterated upon, it's not happening, so we kill it. Or you try to come up with strategies on increasing the adoption rate. You try to improve it. You try to increase the frequency so that the users use it more often. And then you also deliberately improve it. Okay, so these are some of the things that you could do as a result of feature audit. So I gave you tactical suggestions on what you could do. Now let's think on a broader level, holistic level, a strategic level to avoid feature factory. Now, you all know there is a product life cycle, isn't it? Now, product life cycle goes from go-to-market, initial go-to-market, early adopters, and then if you are lucky, you get through the growth phase. And once you are in the growth phase, inevitably you will reach the maturity stage, and decline has to happen. It's just like life, right? I mean, we all take birth, we grow, we mature, and then we die. But as product managers, we just have to strive not to let a product decline. So that's why you have additional S curves, and you think of how to revive it and keep the growth going year after year. Now, what happens is feature factory often happens at the maturity stage. Okay, that is where often feature factory starts to kick in. And what you need to do at that time is you need to now start thinking, if you are going towards mature market, are you becoming a product that is becoming all things to all people? Because you began with niche, and then you started increasing in adoption, and then you started features, and it bloated, and today it becomes everything to everybody. And when that happens, strategically, you should avoid, first of all, you should avoid becoming that. That is a red flag. So what you should do is, at that time, before that happens, you should do a user segmentation of your product, saying that, okay, what are your customers' needs are, and how are different customers different in terms of their jobs and personas and their needs, and then unbundle your product and create products, bundle them for these different needs and jobs and personas. And that is very important. And one of the important books that I learned is from Monetizing Innovation by Madhavan Ramanujan. Every product manager should read this book. It's a fantastic book. So he has a chapter where he says, don't default to a one-size-fits-all solution. Your customers are different. And the other book that also teaches about jobs is Tony Ulwick's Jobs to be Done. I had a great, I was lucky enough to attend a workshop by Tony Ulwick in Munich a few years ago. Now, we also suffered with this. Now, what happens is when you try to become one product, everything for everybody, what happens, your product is disrupted by smaller players, and this is what is called disruptive innovation. Now, because you are becoming everything for everybody, you are also becoming expensive because you have so many features. Okay, now there are smaller customers who don't need so many features. They are happy with 20% of the features, but they cannot pay, because if their needs are for those 20% use cases, why would they pay such a premium product or an expensive product? So when that pain is existing in the market, there are competitors who try to serve those smaller customers. And then you are in a dilemma, because do you want to serve those smaller customers because they are way too cheap, and you cannot expect to offer those products for cheap, and as a result you ignore that small market thinking it is a smaller market, and then there are competitors that grab that market. And when that happens, you might ignore it today, but gradually those smaller competitors start to grab more and more of market share, and you want to avoid that. And it happened in one of my previous organizations at Teamweaver. We had a similar smaller competitors who tried to grab market share. Now, when that happens, and that is called disruptive innovation, and there's a very good book on disruptive innovation, Innovator's Dilemma. Product managers should read it. Now, when you should avoid making that happen, and then what you should do, you should again do an audit of the jobs your customers are doing on the personas and the use case. And this is exactly a graph. I have masked the actual use cases with color coding, so because it is sensitive information, I have masked it. But what is beneath this mask is actually listing out the use cases for different customers and needs, and then putting them across and dividing them with different personas. So what this exercise helps you is, it actually helps you unbundle your product. And when you unbundle that product, then you can come up with different variants of a product. And this is how we arrived at 3 tiers for our product, which was not the case before. And then you can clearly demarcate. Okay, for the smaller use cases, you can come up with a cheaper initial product, and then for higher use cases and more use cases, you can go to premium tiers. So with that, I mentioned a few books. I just thought I will put in all the books together: Monetizing Innovation, Innovator's Dilemma, Jobs to be Done, Kathy Sierra's Badass, and of course April Dunford's Obviously Awesome. I mentioned about positioning. You should not be everything to everybody. You should clearly differentiate yourself in the marketplace. So Obviously Awesome is a great book. With that, that's all that I had. Happy to take questions if you have any.
Okay, it seems like we have a couple of questions coming in on the thing. Hang on one second.
So was the presentation, were you able to hear all through okay? Was it clear? Did you have any hiccup?
Very clear on my end.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ravi. It was very insightful.
Yeah, I love the toaster analogy. I actually got a bit hungry when you did that.
You're welcome.
It also very,
So
very
I
nice
see
methods that you suggest for the tactical and strategic approaches to it. It's nice to see.
Thank you. So I see some questions on the screen. So is this a cue for me to take them up?
Yeah, please, as you.
All right. So it is from CS. I hope there is a name behind those initials. CS says, I actually have a question. There are aspects of building a product which is challenging regarding of whether it has impact. What do you do to start focusing on outcomes and not output? So yeah, output and outcome is again, it depends upon your personal discipline and rigor, and it's very it's as a product manager, you have to focus on outcomes, isn't it? And so your question is, what do you do to start focusing on outcomes? So it's again, jobs to be done is something that should be the crux of all your value creation efforts. So whenever you trying to create value in terms of new features or a new product introduction, try to list down all the jobs, all the pain points that your customers are trying to state, and those pain points are the actual outcomes. So when you are, and the best exercise is value proposition canvas. Value proposition canvas is a great framework where you list out the jobs at one end and list out the features at another end, and see if the features are actually solving the jobs that the customers are complaining. And you do one-to-one match. And sometimes what happens, you realize when you have built a feature that out of 5 customer problems, you were only able to solve 3 of them, and you could not solve 2. And that is okay, but at least you are aware that what are the pain points you are able to solve, and those are the outcomes. Otherwise, if you're not clear with that, you just ship a feature, and then you are actually inculcating an output mindset. So yeah, that's my answer to your question, CS.
Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, so there's one more from Simon. In my experience, there's often management pressure to deliver XYZ. Yes, always. This invariably leads to the rust process that has a blind spot for feature audits. How would you deal with it? Yeah, so the best part about a product manager is he is at the sweet spot. So he is exposed to the realities from the product team, from the engineering team, and also interfacing with the needs of the market and the management expectation. Okay, so he is the bridge between the two, and it is for him to communicate, to make trade-off decisions, and make the communication transparent either to the management or to the development team. And of course, it's a tough decision because sometimes you make enemies either side because you have to say no. And if you say no and you have to ship a feature because it is crucial business goal, then sometimes you have to compromise at the say at the cost of performance or at the cost of technical debt. So you just have to build that feature, and there's no way. And sometimes the engineers are not happy, but you have to do it because that is a very urgent, crucial business need, or you want to save an important customer or an enterprise customer. You just need to take that bet. So, but on the other side, sometimes what happens, that the product would fail or the product would not scale because the performance or the backend systems are weak and going to be compromised. So at that time, you also have to have the courage as a product manager to go and confront the management saying that no, of course it's a business need, but our backend processes would not be able to handle this. We would need at least one more sprint cycle to do this, and we'll not be able to ship. So again, it depends upon the context. It depends upon the situation where you have to actually deal it. But as a product manager, you have to be very objective to see the realities at both ends and then make a decision. So there's no yes or there's no right or wrong answer here. But you should be able to deal with management pressure objectively.
Cool. Thank you, Ravi. I see we have another question coming in from Jens here, who is asking.
Hey, Jens. I'm in a B2B environment. Same with me. How to withdraw features when there will always be some customer that has adopted it and might even argue that they have paid for it since they bought it.
That's
Excellent.
a good.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good one. And usually, what happens? I can say this with experience. So we have different versions, and for every versions we used to have some. Say we would say the older versions are only supported. For example, iPhone also, right? So the older versions are only supported for 3 releases. After that, we won't give them support. And then there are some legacy features that are there in the older versions which we do not give support. And that you have an existing paying customer and who is there. So you have to at that time take a trade-off decision. So you say, okay, 5% of our customers are still paying, but you have to have a outlook for the future and saying that is that feature useful? Do we have to take a stand here where you need to move these 5% customers to this new interface or to this new world? For example, when I was with Autodesk, we had a desktop product, but we were now moving to the cloud. And there were many customers who were not willing to move to the cloud because of security issues. But the world is moving to the cloud. Our future was cloud. We could not do this. We had to take the tough decision to influence the customer and to convince them, but it comes at a cost. So you have to lose some of those customers. So it's again a management decision.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you. And from Manav, you've also submitted a question.
Okay, half the issue around feature factories is that none of the language around value is aligned. Does this mean everyone needs to think the same way? How do we measure this in startups to enterprises? So when you say none of the language around value is aligned. What do you mean, Manav?
Well, we have the product value, right? So we are generating. We want to get conversion rates on our product, and we want to align everything to our businesses as well. But when we say we want to concentrate on outcome versus outputs, how do we make sure that everyone is thinking the same? Because you might work in a product team or with a senior product manager who thinks that way, but you might have sales team or marketing team who are taking in feedback which doesn't align according to what you need to deliver. So does it always mean that we align everyone the same way? Should everyone think the same way? Because that's a big challenge if you work in a enterprise as compared to a startup.
Yeah, so this is the crucial, as I said, as a product manager, you are at the center of a cross-functional organization. And communication is the key. Alignment is your responsibility. So you cannot complain that there is no alignment. You have to take the driver's seat to ensure that there is alignment. So to answer your question, you just have to work hard to ensure everybody is aligned. And if there are differences of opinions, we have to ensure that the differences of opinions are ironed out. And there is no other way than talking and conversing and trying to give them complete transparency on why you decide what you decide. So I believe in complete transparency. I believe in radical transparency, because as long as you have made the right decisions, you should be able to present and get buy-in from everybody. So yeah, that's what I think, Manav. But
Cool.
good question there.
I think it's often that people from different units or departments come with their own pains, which they see day to day. And often what I've seen is that the strategic feature development or core feature development can be negatively impacted if the product manager sways too much to, for example, one unit or one team that happens to shout loud enough. I've seen that in the past.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
obviously a high risk. So I think part of it's also about being bold, to have confidence in the long-term or mid-term vision that you have behind the product. Otherwise, you'll get derailed and be building little small fry for small amounts of people. I've seen that definitely.
Very, very well said, Simon. So having not distracting from your North Star. Your North Star is important because that's what is keeping all the teams aligned. And sometimes it comes at the cost of immediate needs of a specific team So as long as everybody is success oriented for the larger success of the organization, I think this should be managed.
Alrighty. I think doesn't seem like there's any more questions coming up now. So I think that was
cool.
Us for the Q&A. Thank you a lot, Ravi. It was a really interesting presentation again.
Thank you, Simon.
We hope to see you around again.
See you around. All right, Manav. Thanks, Manav.
Thank you all for attending, and see you again at the next ProductTank Linz event. Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.